What is going on, everybody? Welcome to or back to Ryder's Record Collection. My name is Carl, and this is going to be a fun video. It's Sunday. I've had a good old Friday evening, Saturday all day spinning records, and I put one record on Friday that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole. And this video is going to be me soapboxing on that rabbit hole a little bit. And I think it's going to be a series that I do. It's going to be similar in vein to that easily digestible album series that I started a couple months ago. I'll leave a link to it up there where I discuss, I think it's 5 really easily digestible, palatable jazz albums. I want to continue with that series, so that'll, next one I'll do is really easily palatable rock albums. But this isn't going to be easily digestible albums. This is going to be just killer debut albums. I put on the first album that I'm going to mention on Friday evening. Jumped around, got ready, went out to happy hour and whatnot, and then Saturday I woke up and just started playing debut albums. Just kind of got me down a rabbit hole. So this isn't going to be the best debut albums per se, but this is going to be albums that I think are just stunning debut albums. I'll give you a little bit of facts. I think I have 5 of them picked out. So without any further ado, again, really, really good debut albums. You might disagree. They're not going to be the best. They're not supposed to be the best. They're just what I consider to be stunning debut albums where they didn't miss a beat. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about one that I'm sure everyone's going to think of, and that is going to be the Jimi Hendrix Experience, their album, Are You Experienced? This is an absolutely flawless record. There is not a bad song on here. Released originally in May of 1967. This is psychedelic, blues, hard rock. Jimi Hendrix really just first time not being a session musician and being out in front. This album blows my mind. I mean, the track listing alone: Purple Haze, Manic Depression, Hey Joe, Lover Confusion, May This Be Love, I Don't Live Today. Side 2, The Wind Cries Mary, Fire, Third Stone from the Sun, which is some funky, weird, avant-garde jazz thing he's doing. Foxy Lady and Are You Experienced? I mean, honestly, this entire album could be a single. Like, there is not just, you could release every single one of these as a single and have it pick off. And I'll read you the back of the album just cause. Be forewarned. Used to be an experiment making you a bit older. This one makes you wider. With the assistance of Mitch Mitchell on drums and Noel Redding on guitar, Jimi Hendrix breaks the world into interesting fragments and then reassembles it. You hear with new ears after being experienced. Those who've seen him perform know only part of this experience. They rave about a young man who plays a guitar in more positions than anyone before him. Now this debut album will put the heads of Hendrix listeners into some novel positions. Be forewarned. I mean, what a warning for a debut album. 1967, this blew the rock and roll world apart. And all these years later, it's still getting repressed. UHQR just did a pressing of this. It's still sought after. Vinyl and CD fans alike rave about this album. You still hear it on classic rock. This could be one of the best debut albums of all time, even though that's not the point of this list. But man, what a stunning debut. This next album is a bit more of a modern day album, and this is one of my favorite albums of all time by one of my favorite bands of all time. And it is a debut. It is a stunning debut, but this is going to be Cage the Elephant's self-titled debut. You can see the autographs there. I brought this to a concert. I had the bassist sign it there. There's the singer signed it, and the guitar player signed it. Lugged this thing around with me and got it signed at a concert. But this came out in 2008, I believe. But this is post-punk, garage, alternative, indie rock. This is a great song. If you haven't heard of Cage the Elephant, you have probably heard the standout single from this. What's it called? Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, which is really popular on radio. Cage the Elephant's gone on to release, I believe, 4, maybe 5 albums so far. They've gone in a bunch of different directions, but this is them just getting started. Pretty boilerplate, down dirty rock and roll, garage rock sound for the, early teens, 2008, but really, really good. I'm super attached to this album because I saw them perform this album on their first tour, and blew my mind. But the track listing on this is side 1, In One Ear, which is a great way to start a rock and roll album. They start a lot of their shows with that song. James Brown, Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, Tiny Little Robots, and Lotus. And side B is Back Against the Wall, Drones in the Valley, Judas, Backstabbing Betty, Soil to the Sun, and Free Love. And a lot of these songs, specifically 2 or 3 songs on the second side, they all flow together like one long song. And I love this album so much. This is one of the oldest albums in my collection. I bought this, I think, 2009 or 2010, right when I got into records in high school, and I've had it ever since. It's a little beat up because it's seen some parties, but it's a great, great debut album, and I highly recommend it. Now, going back to my previous Blackhead statement, this is not the best debuts album of all time. This is not the goal of this list. This is just the series. I'm going to do another video following up this one, but this is just to talk about really good debut albums. I didn't want to stick with a particular genre for this. I wanted to bounce around and have some fun. And I want to show another old album that I have in my collection, which I actually got for free. I had known the Love Shack song by this band. This is the B-52s, and this is their debut album from 1979, the B-52s. This is new wave, dance rock, funky, super, 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 super fun. These guys, I will forever remember these guys as the BC-52s in the 1994 live-action Fred Flintstone. They do, I think, 2 songs on there. They do the intro, Meet the Flintstones, and then I think after, Fred and Barney win their bowling tournament, they go to that fancy restaurant or whatever it is, and they're drinking from the big old keg of beer, but the B-52s are playing in the background there. So, super into the new wave scene from Athens, Georgia. This is a great debut album, and I will say, I think side 1 is stronger than side 2, but side 1 is Planet Claire, which is just the intro to that. It's just takes you to another planet. 52 girls dance this mess around, which, man, I forget what the singer's name is, but her vocals, why won't you dance with me? It's such a good song. And then last but certainly not least is one of my favorite songs on side 1 of all time, and that is Rock Lobster. It's like 7 minutes of just, man, I'll leave a link to Rock Lobster up there, because if you haven't heard Rock Lobster, I highly recommend that. Again, side 2 for me is not as strong as side 1, but side 2 is Lava, There's a Moon in the Sky Called the Moon, Hero Warship, 6060842, which is a fun song, and then Downtown. But side 2, they really stretch their legs musically on this. This is one of the earliest albums that I got in my collection. I had a friend in high school whose mom was like, "Oh, you're getting into this." I have a whole box of records. I got 30 or 40 records, and this was one of the ones on it. The sleeve's a little beat up, but the album itself is in great shape. I've got the interior liner notes. I'll show you for this too. But man, these guys went on to have a really good career. But this debut album, I think, is just fantastic. So the B-52s 1979 debut, the B-52s. Definitely recommend checking it out. So I tried to change up the rock and roll with the B-52s. Like I said, their new wave dance music. Gonna go back to rock and roll for number 4, and this is one of the best-selling debut albums of all time. This, depending on the kind of music you like, you may or may not be a fan. I was a fan of this album. This band, their 4th album, and when I got into them, I backtracked. Their 4th album is AM. And if you know who I'm talking about now, you know that I'm talking about the Arctic Monkeys. And their first album, their debut album, whatever people say that's what I'm not, is one of the best debut albums of all time. And I'll show you right now. This is the, I believe, 2020, 2021 RSD pressing of this. But this album is just a banger after banger after banger. If you're into like garage punk revival, post-punk, like modern day, I mean, just Brit-pop, jumping around club, like this is what I imagine when I like go to a 500-person club and see a rock band. This is this album. Just, I mean, the standout song from this is I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor. That was really big in 2006 when this album came out. This album blew up because of MySpace. A bunch of kids kids, I would say young adults got together, recorded this album, and really had not a lot of musical training, not a lot of experience making music. They got together, and this album blew up, I think, faster than any of them ever expected it to. But again, Arctic Monkeys, whatever people say, and that's what I'm not. Released 2006, post-punk revival, garage punk, Brit-pop, super thrashy guitar music, skateboarding music, punk rock. I'll read you the track listing. Side A is A View for the Afternoon, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor, Fake Tales from San Francisco, which is a great song, Dancing Shoes, You probably couldn't see for the lights, but you were staring at me. Still Take You Home, which is just, that's a funny, that talks about going to a club. I'm like, oh, well, I'll still take you home though. Side B, Riot Van, Red Light Indicates Doors Are Secured, Marty Bum, Perhaps Vampires is a bit strong, but that song is awesome. You can't help but jump around to that song. When the Sun Goes Down, From Rich to Rebel, and last but certainly not least is A Certain Romance. I really highly, highly recommend this album. If you haven't heard it or heard of the Arctic Monkeys, AM's a great place to start, but if you're really into like old, just jumping around punk music, this album. And I'll show you the variant, because they got in trouble for this album because this album promotes smoking with the guy on the cover. Drunk guy smoking a cigarette late night, and then the center label they had all the old Marlboros, but this is supposed to be smoky vinyl. Again, the Vinyl Me Please pressing of this, and it sounds fantastic. I tried to pick a little bit of older music and modern music, kind of bounce it up and keep it fresh. So that's the reason you got two 2000s albums in here, along with the 60s and 80s and another 80s album I'm going to show here in a second. And next is an album that is a debut. It is one of the best debuts of all time. Been on multiple lists. I think personally it's an album that everyone should hear once in their lifetime. You can either love it, not like it, take it or leave it. I guarantee you know one or two songs from this album. And before I say those songs, because I'll give it away, I'll tell you what the album is. But this is the Beastie Boys and their debut album, Licensed to Ill. If you've never heard of the Beastie Boys, you've probably heard either Paul Revere, Fight for Your Right, or No Sleep Till Brooklyn. This album transcends genres. This is a rock and roll album with 3 rappers on it. It's the Beastie Boys, and if you haven't heard of the Beastie Boys, I find it hard to believe. But this was released in 1987. And this album was just, I heard this very early on. I heard Fight for Your Right on my classic or my radio station when I was a kid, middle school, and got really, really into this album. I remember going to Target and buying this album on CD for my Walkman. And when I first got into records, this was one of the albums that I had to have. But again, 1987 rap hip-hop album produced by Rick Rubin. It's got the guitars from Pantera on it. It samples Zeppelin. It samples all sorts of stuff. Other bands like NWA and Sublime went on to sample this album. So one of the best debuts of all time, and is arguably, across many lists, one of the best. But I'll read you the track listing here. I'll show you the album cover first. So this is just, those are the Beastie Boys, and the other side of this album cover is just fantastic. Looks like a joint getting stubbed out. And actually, Eminem recently, on his Kamikaze album or whatever it is, he took this album artwork and did a tribute to the Beastie Boys, but the track listing on this is just mind-blowing. So this starts out with Rhymin' and Stealin', The New Style, which is one of my favorite songs. She's Crafty, Poses in Effect, Slow Ride, Girls, Fight for Your Right, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Paul Revere, which is just me and my horsey and a Paul Revere. Man, great song. Hold It Now, Hit It. Brass Monkey. It's another standout single from this. If you haven't heard Brass Monkey, this album, man, another album where everything could be a single, but Brass Monkey, Slow and Low, and Time to Get Ill. And this just blew up these guys' career. And they were everywhere after that in the 80s and early 90s. And just, I'll leave a link to Fight for Your Right. The video for that is so funny, the one here on YouTube. But man, again, another great debut album. And that's 5. That was my list. Again, I went down a rabbit hole. I'm filming this on a Sunday and all day yesterday. I spun a lot of music, but I kept going back to debut albums. There were a couple more that quite didn't make the cut, but they'll make the next video. I hope to make this a series where, again, like I said, not necessarily the greatest debuts of all time, but just really good debut albums. And, along with that easily digestible jazz albums, I'm going to do an easily digestible classic rock, modern rock, reggae, things like that. So, 5 albums or so, just discuss some music. So, comment below, let me know what you think is a stunning debut album that I may have missed, and, what your favorite debut album is, and we'll have a conversation. And until the next time, I'm Carl. This is Ryder's Record Collection. If you like this video, please throw it a like, and if you like the channel, please subscribe. I just surpassed 300 subscribers, so I'm super excited about that. I'm going to think about an idea to do some sort of contest or giveaway, so stay tuned for that. And until the next time, have some fun, spin some wax. Thanks for watching. Cheers.